What's confusing is all of those things that you just said are also included in the racketeering count.
So we don't know what the vote is.
So we don't know what the vote is. It's hard to read what they...
The desperate 911 call comes from inside Michael Jackson's rented Beverly Hills mansion. It is just before...
Said it out loud on record, and not just a cryptic tweet or a vague lyric. She dropped the kind of bombshell that doesn't just echo through the tabloids, it detonates a fault line straight through the heart of music history. According to the woman who stood by Sean Diddy Combs for over a decade, the man now facing a stack of scandals higher than the Billboard charts was sent to eliminate none other than Michael Jackson. Not metaphorically, not career-wise, but literally. Her claim Michael had become too powerful, too unpredictable, and far too aware of the shadow games behind the curtain. And Diddy, he was the cleanup man, the fixer, the one who in return for eternal fame cashed in on the unthinkable. I have done all I could do. I told the truth, and I have faith the truth will prevail.
I have done all I could do. I told the truth, and I have faith the truth will prevail.
According to the police affidavit, Conrad Murray told detectives he'd been treating Michael Jackson for insomnia for weeks. He said he'd tried lots of other but that the pop star demanded propofol. On the day Conrad Murray said he gave Jackson 25 milligrams of it at 10:40.
That doesn't get whispered at after parties, it gets buried. Or at least it used to. But now with Diddy's empire cracking from every angle, with lawsuits multiplying and courtroom losses mounting, we're watching the dam finally break. In Cassie's words, they're rushing out with a force that's impossible to ignore. Because if this story holds even a grain of truth, we're not just talking about backroom deals or chart manipulation. We're talking about the alleged elimination of the most famous man on earth, the king of pop, by a peer who stood to inherit his power. And when you zoom in on the timing, on the fortune, on the eerie aftermath of June 25, 2009, it doesn't feel like pure fantasy anymore. Michael Jackson wasn't just rehearsing for a comeback that summer. He was engineering a seismic industry play. He wasn't just preparing for a tour. He was preparing to reclaim his throne. The This Is It concerts were more than a show. They were leverage. Michael had control over a catalog so vast and valuable it practically dictated the pulse of the industry. The Beatles writes his own mega hits, entire generations of music. But here's where it tilts into thriller territory. People close to Jackson said he believed they were watching him. He told his sister LaToya, "They're going to get me for my catalog." He left frantic notes, scribbled warnings about being surrounded. Was he paranoid or was he right?
It's a lot more complicated than just Dr. Murray was at his bedside when he circumstances had been leading up to this for years.
Because here's where Diddy's name enters the shadows according to Cassie, and echoed, some say, by Jackson's own final word to a close associate. Diddy knew too much. It's a phrase that chills. Not he knows music, not he knows the game, but he knows too much. And then Michael Jackson is gone. Official cause, a fatal sedative overdose administered by a doctor who, according to prosecutors, had no business using hospital-grade anesthetics in a private bedroom. But what if that doctor wasn't acting alone? What if, as some believe, Conrad Murray was a puppet in a much deeper scheme, and who had everything to gain when Jackson's influence abruptly vanished? Take a look at Diddy's timeline. In the months following Jackson's final curtain, Diddy's brand surged to global ubiquity. Deals got signed, Bad Boy Records expanded, Croc's sales skyrocketed. Suddenly, the man whose musical relevance had started to wane was front page again fashion fragrance features. It wasn't just a comeback. It was a coronation. And for those digging into this narrative, the meteoric rise wasn't just convenient. It was contractual. The payout, they say, for completing an assignment that had been in motion for years.
Surprised by the evidence that's already coming out in the criminal trial?
No, I'm not surprised. I experienced some of those things. Witness violence.
Now keep in mind, this isn't the kind of conspiracy you find buried in Reddit threads. This is the kind of story whispered by veteran producers, by ex-bodyguards, by people who've seen the underside of the music business up close and dirty. One former LA road manager speaking anonymously claims he overheard catalog discussions between Diddy and a then powerful executive just weeks before Michael's demise. Another source insists that after MJ's passing, several backdoor ownership transfers were fast-tracked, including key portions of the ATV publishing empire. Coincidence? Possibly, but try selling that to the Jackson family, some of whom still believe Michael was absolutely set up. And Cassie, she was there through the Grammy parties, the yacht deals, the international flights. She saw who came through the door when the cameras weren't rolling. She knew who Diddy was entertaining and who he was answering to. Her accusations aren't vague, they're surgical. She says Michael was out of control, but not in the public scandal sense. In the dangerously free sense, talking too much, planning too much, allegedly prepared to expose things that could burn the foundations of pop culture to the ground. And if that's true, then Diddy wasn't just part of the industry, he was its executioner, the man tapped by powerful interests to shut Michael down.
Well, the things that I experienced with him were monster-like. That stuff almost destroyed my life.
And if you think that sounds too wild to be true, remember Diddy's sitting in jail right now, not just for business missteps, but for a web of crimes so sordid and sprawling that it took 2 federal agencies to untangle. He's facing time, real time, and suddenly the people who once protected him silent. Suddenly, his inner circle is disbanding like frightened witnesses. And Cassie, she's not running, she's naming names. What's even more haunting is that Michael seemed to know the script before the curtain dropped. His daughter Paris told Rolling Stone, he said, "They're going to get me." And when the coroner's report labeled his passing a homicide, yes, homicide, the official story narrowed in on Conrad Murray. But again, ask yourself, who hired Murray? Who financed the comeback tour's infrastructure? Who stood to benefit if that tour never happened? Because one canceled tour might be a tragedy, but one canceled tour followed by a seismic redistribution of power that smells like design.
How many people came through his orbit? How many people could this have happened to? And how did he get away with it?
And here's the most disturbing thread of all. Multiple insiders were talking about people who knew Jackson from the ad's claim he called a contact just days before June 25th. A cryptic call short frantic. The message, if something happens to me, Diddy knows too much. It's not clear what he meant, but it's the kind of sentence that reads differently when one man is in the ground and the other is in handcuffs. And still, the biggest question hangs in the air like a storm cloud no one wants to touch. Why Michael? Why take out the king of pop? For many watching from the sidelines, the answer starts and ends with ownership. Michael Jackson's publishing empire wasn't just valuable, it was volcanic. With a stroke of a pen, he controlled the rights to the Beatles, Little Richard, Elvis hits, and more than half of Sony's prized music vault. Insiders say it was worth over $1 billion. But more than that, it made him dangerous. Dangerous to an industry built on quiet deals and unspoken rules. Jackson wasn't supposed to be the boss of everyone. He wasn't supposed to own the system, and yet he did.
To me, as Wild King nights. And what a Wild King night was when him and a guest would go to a hotel room or be at his home, his bedroom, and they would have intimate gatherings. I would have to go and prep that hotel room, which consisted of baby oil.
Was warned multiple times. They're going to do me in. Michael reportedly told friends in his final months. The catalog he believed had painted a target on his back. After a failed attempt by Sony to buy it out completely, Michael tightened his grip instead, and from that moment on, everything changed. His inner circle shifted. New handlers appeared. Financial advisors came and went. And right at the center of that shakeup, we find Diddy, newly ascendant, suddenly everywhere, and rumored to be working with exactly the kinds of executives who stood to gain from Michael's downfall. Cassie's claim wasn't just about betrayal. It was about succession in the wake of Jackson's silence who got the stage. Not long after Michael's passing, Sony, now without its fiercest shareholder, secured a massive piece of the catalog he once protected like gold. And who else started expanding influence inside Sony's orbit at the same time? Diddy. He inked new branding deals. His name started surfacing at executive rounds, not just music events. And in the years that followed, he emerged as more than just a performer. He became a brand builder, a media kingmaker, even a political voice. Some said it was brilliance. Others quietly whispered that it was something else entirely. That fame like this doesn't just happen, it's arranged.
I thought he was this clean businessman who rise to the top because he was such a powerful and, smart, educated man. I had no idea that he had this other side to him. And when I started to get exposed to his lifestyle, I started to really realize, like, this guy has an addiction. It's not just, once every few weeks, it's every day, every hour.
Meanwhile, the darker truths kept boiling up beneath the surface. Let's talk about the freak-offs. A phrase once dismissed as urban myth has now become hard evidence in court filings. Former assistants, former partners, even federal investigators have peeled back the curtain on what they describe as ritualistic multi-day sessions of control and humiliation hosted, filmed, and orchestrated by Diddy himself. These weren't just adult escapades. These were power displays, his way of showing he owned the room, owned the people in it, owned the story. Now ask yourself, doesn't that sound hauntingly familiar? Jackson's own notes, the ones scattered across his home spoke of being watched, being manipulated, being forced into a world he didn't recognize. People giving him injections, handlers who wouldn't leave, staff that rotated so quickly he no longer knew who to trust. It wasn't just the propol, it was the environment. He felt surrounded by those with hidden agendas, and he wrote about it constantly. He feared being used, and in the end, that fear may have been exactly right.
I want to start with alleged victim number 4, who goes by the name Mia. It's an alias. She is one of the people who is testifying where the judge has granted her anonymity. She is on the stand, but everybody in the courtroom has been warned. Do not reveal her identity. Do not even give a physical
AIE's allegations, stripped of their celebrity varnish, are eerily parallel. She described years of coercion, of being cut off from friends and family, of being controlled down to what she wore and when she could speak. She says Diddy isolated her, broke her psychologically, and used her as an instrument of performance in private, all while maintaining the illusion of a loving, aspirational couple in public. Her words mirror Michael's scribbled warnings. "They are trying to destroy me," he wrote. "I don't feel safe anymore. This isn't just a story about two fallen stars. It's about the machinery behind them, the hidden networks that elevate certain people and erase others. It's about the fine line between fame and captivity and the brutal cost of stepping out of line." For years, Diddy was seen as the self-made mogul, the man who went from Harlem hustle to Hollywood elite. But the image is cracking one court case at a time, one leaked clip at a time. And as that mask slips, the timing of his rise becomes harder to ignore. So she testified,
excuse me, that she was Diddy's ex-assistant. She said he her, sexually assaulted her in various ways multiple times. He exacted unbelievable violence against her, threatened her, at one point allegedly threatened to take her phone and use anything on the phone.
Michael's final performances, those haunting rehearsal tapes from June 2009, show a man determined but exhausted. Observers noted he looked frail but focused, trying to deliver the spectacle he once commanded effortlessly. But others said something was off. One of the dancers recalled he didn't seem in control. Could that be because he wasn't? Could someone else have already seized the wheel? In recent years, unearthed rehearsal footage from just 2 days before Michael's passing has taken on a life of its own online. Not because of the choreography, but because of the way he moved. Frame by frame, fans and investigators alike have dissected his every gesture, pointing out how his steps were just slightly delayed, how his body language seemed drained, and how his face, usually a mask of intensity on stage, looked oddly distracted, even hot. It wasn't just fatigue, they argue. It was fear. The kind that lingers in someone who senses the end coming even if they can't say it out loud.
It's got this new audio from the Diddy trial, and it is pretty explosive. This is audio of a voicemail that Diddy left to the Jane Doe who's been testifying in this trial for the last couple days. And he sounds really annoyed. It's talking about her maybe giving him the silent treatment. And his response is, "I got a busy life. I can't be dealing with your silent treatment. And we got to keep..."
Some viewers focus on one chilling detail, the way Michael constantly glances off stage as if watching for something or someone just out of frame. In certain moments, his eyes seem to scan the room rather than engage the camera. His smile vanishes the second the music stops. Body language experts have weighed in, suggesting he exhibited classic signs of anticipatory anxiety. Fans have gone further, theorizing that the king of pop wasn't just physically exhausted, he was psychologically cornered. Whether from threats, manipulation, or simply the crushing pressure of his comeback, something was undeniably weighing on him. Adding fuel to this theory is the fact that Michael reportedly fought against multiple medical interventions leading up to the tour, clashing with handlers and advisors over how much control he retained. According to leaked tour planning documents, key decisions were increasingly made without his input. That rehearsal footage then becomes more than just a behind-the-scenes glimpse. It becomes a cipher, a quiet distress call embedded in the polished machinery of his final act. The way his voice cracks, the way his movements stop half a beat too soon. These aren't just artistic quirks. To many, they're signs that he knew he was spiraling towards something he couldn't stop. Continue to engage in all these freak-offs with him, and he sounds really pissed.
You to engage in all these freak-offs with him, and he sounds really pissed off.
Hey, I really don't know what's going on with you, but I just want to just give you a heads up that I'm about to really disappear on you. You feel me? I'm not going to be playing these games with you at all, at all. So I don't know, you think you silent treating me, and you think I'm going to be, nah, you'll have a room.
Itself has also come under scrutiny. Background chatter, nervous assistants hovering, rehearsals extending past midnight. It all adds to the sense that this wasn't just a standard production run-through. There was tension in the room, and those watching with a critical eye have suggested that Michael, often hyper-attuned to mood and energy, absorbed that tension like a sponge. His famously intuitive performance style was always a reflection of his internal world. In those final sessions, the reflection was fractured, hushed, guarded. Something had shifted, and he seemed to know it. Ultimately, the video offers no direct answers, only fragments, glances, and unsettling cues. But what it does provide is another layer of psychological intrigue, a window into the mental and emotional strain Michael may have been enduring. When taken alongside his personal notes, his phone calls, and his desperate attempts to gain autonomy in the weeks before his passing, this footage becomes less of a performance and more of a warning. And for those who believe he was silenced, it may be the last time he tried to tell the world something was wrong. Not through words, but through motion, through silence, through a glance toward the shadows. Just beyond the spotlight.
So it looks like right now the judge is denying bail, meaning that he will not be released pending the sentencing hearing. I want to emphasize that there are two things happening basically at once. Today is about the conditions of release, if any, and it looks like the reporting from inside the courtroom is that Sean Combs will not be released.
And that brings us back to the morning of June 25th. A lethal dose of hospital-grade anesthetic. A doctor who conveniently left the room. A delay in calling emergency services that defies logic. Conrad Murray took the fall, but even he admitted that Michael had warned others begged to escape the people around him. The coroner ruled it a homicide, but the true motive, if there was one, remains buried beneath sealed files and broken NDAs. But we're not saying Diddy pulled the trigger. We're saying he may not have needed to. If Cassie's revelations are accurate, Diddy didn't just live inside the machine. He was a tool of it, and tools don't ask questions, they follow orders. His job may have been to distract, to charm, to push others aside so that certain hands could reach for the vault without resistance. Hands that knew Jackson's removal wouldn't just quiet a voice, it would unlock a fortune.
Is going through a number of different reasons. Again, very quick reporting indicates that the judge is citing to the defense attorney's own statements during the case that Sean Combs is a violent person, has had violent personal relationships. But of course, the defense said that doesn't mean he's guilty of racketeering. It looks like the judge is now using those statements to say he